Okay, let's dive right into this explainer and tackle what is honestly one of the most stressful, messy situations a homeowner can ever face: a sudden sewer backup. I mean, we're talking about the sheer immediate panic of wondering who's actually going to pay to clean up it's the exact kind of disaster that sends you frantically scrambling for your insurance paperwork while you're literally standing in an inch of murky water. But hey, instead of panicking, we are going to break down exactly how all of this works. So does homeowners insurance actually cover sewer line backups? It's a question every homeowner absolutely dreads having to ask. You're staring at the damage and you just want a simple yes from your agent. Well, the short answer we're unpacking today is that coverage is totally possible, but it is certainly not automatic. As we look at the fine print together, you'll see that assuming you're fully covered just because you pay your monthly premiums is a massive risk. All right, here's our agenda for today. First, is your backup actually covered? 2, decoding your homeowner's policy. 3, the sewer backup endorsement. 4, out-of-pocket cost expectations. And finally, 5, taking action on claims. Let's kick things off with Section 1. Is your backup covered? The core dilemma. It's super fascinating to see the distinction here. See, standard policies are built for covered perils. Think of it like a pipe suddenly bursting inside your kitchen wall. But when that murky water originates deep down in the sewer line itself, insurers generally treat that as a completely separate, special category. And unfortunately for us, that category usually comes packed with some serious limitations. Moving right along to Section 2, decoding your homeowner's policy, the fine print. It turns out insurers look at these specific variables incredibly closely. They don't just see a puddle of water. They want to know exactly where it came from, why the incident happened, and trust me, they will meticulously check the exact wording in your document. They're scanning to see if words like sewer or drain backup are explicitly included, and they are always on the lookout for any signs of homeowner neglect. So a really crucial point here is whether the backup is treated as coming from your private line or a public main, because that single distinction can completely change your coverage. If the municipal system gets overwhelmed and pushes water back up into your home, your standard policy might literally wash its hands of the situation entirely. But on the flip side, an issue originating entirely on your own property might be treated differently, depending on the cause. And that brings us to another massive deciding factor, which is time. Insurers heavily favor sudden accidental events over issues caused by gradual wear and tear or poor maintenance. So if a backup happens because, say, tree roots have been slowly choking your pipes for 5 years and you just kind of ignored the slow drains, well, you're likely going to face a denial. The insurer views that as a preventable maintenance issue, definitely not a sudden accident. All right, on to Section 3, the sewer backup endorsement, your golden ticket. So here is that golden ticket I mentioned, an endorsement. In the insurance world, this is essentially an optional add-on that modifies your standard policy. When it comes to water damage, a specific sewer or drain backup endorsement is basically your ticket to getting your home repaired when those main lines fail. Without this add-on, you are walking a very, very thin tightrope of coverage. But you knew there'd be a catch, right? Even with this endorsement purchased, your loss still has to meet specific definitions to trigger a payout. The event still has to be sudden and absolutely not due to conditions you could have easily prevented. On top of that, insurers often specify exactly how the water must enter, meaning it usually has to back up through specific plumbing fixtures, your basement drains, or your sump pump systems to actually count. Let's check out Section 4, out-of-pocket cost expectations, the real cost. You absolutely must read your declarations page and your endorsements, not just Section I. Every single company and policy differs in what they actually cover. See, Section I of your policy might give you a really broad overview of your dwelling coverage, but it's the declarations page and those specific endorsements we just talked about that actually spell out the financial rules of the game. Now, this is wild, but payouts are often limited strictly to structural damage and approved cleanup efforts. You need to be prepared that you might face completely separate deductibles specifically for water-related claims. Your standard $1,000 deductible? Yeah, that might not apply here. The endorsement might have its own much higher deductible. And things like replacing your ruined landscaping, treating extensive mold that exceeds their defined conditions, or even replacing certain personal belongings stored in your basement, those might still be entirely your financial responsibility. Finally, Section 5, taking action on claims, your game plan. Following these exact sequential steps before you officially file a claim puts you in a position of power and helps prevent those unnecessary denials. Don't just call up and yell that your house is flooding. Instead, take a breath, gather your facts, document the exact level of the water with your phone's camera, and get a professional out there right away to figure out exactly what caused the backup. Think of these points as your ultimate checklist when you finally do call your agent. Ask them point blank, do I have this specific endorsement? Ask them to clarify if they treat private line and public main backups differently, and get the exact dollar amount for your deductible. Better yet, get them to send their answers in writing via email. That locks in your coverage confirmation so there are absolutely no surprises later on. While you're doing all of this communicating, remember this golden rule. Hold on to every single receipt for emergency mitigation work. If you have to call in an emergency crew at 2 a.m. to extract water or set up fans just to stop the damage from getting worse, insurers generally want to see those exact costs. So do not throw anything away during those first few chaotic hours. If the absolute worst happens and your claim is denied, do not just accept a verbal no. Ask for the specific policy language they used against you. Was it denied because they classified it as a gradual maintenance issue, or was it because it fell under a category your policy specifically excludes? Understanding this is super vital. And hey, while it might be too late for the current event, you can and absolutely should consider adding this backup coverage at your next renewal to take that uncertainty off the table entirely. So, we've covered a ton of ground in this explainer today, from endorsements to public mains to deductibles. But look, all of this knowledge is totally theoretical until you actually look at your own paperwork. Don't wait for a messy, horribly stressful disaster to strike to find out where you stand. I'll leave you with this. Is your home truly protected against a sewer backup right this second? Or do you need to make a phone call today? Take 10 minutes, pull up your policy, and find out for sure. Thanks for joining me, and stay dry out there.